Good morning, everyone, for joining in for Tyron's fourth webinar in the AI series. It is on a very interesting subject in succession to natural language processing covered by us last time. This time, what we're going to cover is the age of language models in NLP. Today, we'll share with you information about latest GPU systems tuned for NLP and how these new GPU systems have taken a performance leap over predecessor GPU system designs and architectures. Introducing myself, I'm Hriday Vikram, Director Strategic Business Development with Tyron Systems, co-presenter and host for today's session. I have with me Ram, Solution Architect from Tyron Innovation Labs. Before we start, would like to share that we won't be able to take questions through voice chat. Please leave your questions in the Q&A section. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation as well. So our agenda for the session today covers number one, Tyron's new GPU system for NLP, which further talks about GPU A100 based systems. I hope you are able to see my screen here. Just a second. Audience, I'll request you to wait for a moment. I'm just trying to move my screen. I hope everyone is able to see the agenda written on the screen here. So our agenda for the session today covers number one, Tyron's new GPU system for NLP, which further talks about GPU A100 based systems, which is one of the world's highest performing AI platform system available as on today. We'll also discuss about how development, training, and inference can now be made available or can be run on a single system. Then era of modern mixed workloads, and then we'll discuss about Tyron qubits as well. Agenda point 2 to 6 will be covered by Ram. Moving on towards our first agenda point, but before that, for our new member audience, we'll have a very quick glance at NetWeb technologies and Tyron systems, that what we have done in the past few years and what are the latest achievements. You can see on the screen here. NetWeb is the largest HPC AI GPU system provider in 4 countries, namely India, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, and we are also present in Middle East Asia. We have a huge customer base of 7,000 plus customers worldwide. We are the only organization to have crossed mark of 400 HPC supercomputing installations in India. We have deployed 7,000 plus GPU systems as yet. We have successfully provided on-premise cloud solutions to 3 Fortune 500 companies. We are the providers of India's fastest hybrid supercomputers supplied to ISRO and CDEC respectively, known as Param Yuva 2 system and Param Ambar. And importantly, we have enabled 100 plus organizations with our AI GPU solutions. These organizations include India's best research organizations, as well as some of the largest corporate players of the world. Moving forward to share new GPU system design and architectures launched by Tyron for NLP now. So the most important change in architecture is introducing HGX NVIDIA A100 GPU in our systems. Increment in performance with 800 or Ampere architecture can be understood by the values shown on the screen. Here, as you can see, 2 times increase in GPU interconnect bandwidth, that is from 300 Gbps to 600 Gbps. Memory jump to 40 GB from 32 GB. Increase in memory bandwidth from 900 Gbps to 1555 Gbps. And ultimately, the AI performance jump, which is 20 times. These parameters will also be explained with subsequent slides, but you will be able to understand that by means of these parameters, the system architecture or the system designs have taken a huge leap towards higher performance compared to the predecessor architectures. Interestingly, for all of us who have followed the latest advancements in natural language processing, you will know that transformer models are the latest craze. These language models are currently the state of the art for many tasks, including article completion, question answering, and dialogue systems. The two famous transformers that come to mind are BERT and GPT-2, which demonstrated such architectures, but pushing the limits by Tesla V100 first and now Tesla A100. Models like Megatron LM become the largest transformer model, delivering multi-fold performance compared to BERT and GPT. And for such transformer models, Tyron has introduced NLP-oriented 3 new systems based on A100 GPUs. The first system shown here comes with 4 number of A100 NVLink based system. Second system comes with 8 number of A100 PCI Express based GPU system. Third is the one which offers 8 number of 8 A100 NVLink GPU based system, and alongside we also offer DGX A100 as well. So technical specification of these 4 systems will also be shared in details subsequently. So more importantly, the features which make these systems, which are now enabled with A100 GPU, these features are in particular 54 billion XTORs, 3rd gen tensor cores, sparsity acceleration, multi-instance GPU, and 3rd gen NVLink. So instead of just going through these features, we can move for a quick comparison where we show some tabled information comparing Tesla V100 based 8 GPU system versus Tesla A100 based 8 GPU system. Some of the most important values to check out here are: first, increase in CUDA cores per GPU, as you can see on your screen. Mixed precision performance of 5 petaflops versus 1 petaflop available in case of previous GPU. Third is multi-instance GPU support. These values, other than the figures shared earlier, confirms huge performance jump with Tesla A100 based systems. So now out of these all aspects or the features what we have shared, one aspect that carries functional importance is about multi-instance GPU support, which literally means that each GPU, as you can see on your screen, each GPU can be chopped off in terms of 7 GPU instances. And these instances can be of any size in terms of GPU memory and compute cores. So it means with your multi-user environment, A100 GPU system can offer highest flexibility, which was absent earlier. So all these features, performance related changes in architecture, make DGX A100 or Tyron HGX A100 based systems a universal solution for analytics, training, and inference. So as you can see on your screen, so the way you can chop off the current GPU, which is A100, allows users or researchers to use the GPU in the most optimized manner. It allows you to do right sizing of GPU allocation as well, depending on number of users who are going to have an access to GPUs. At the same time, depending on the workloads available with those users, you can chop off the size, you can chop off the GPU in multiple or in different sizes. So as I mentioned, all these features or performance related changes in architecture literally make DGX A100 and Tyron HGX A100 systems a universal solution box for analytics, training, and inference. Thus, users can reduce their data center footprint and increase return on investment by using them. So as you can see on your screen, the single system, which is now becoming the main alternative to do analytics, training, and inference, was not the scenario in the previous with the previous generation based servers or previous generation based GPU systems. Earlier, we used to have dedicated systems for analytics, for training, and inference, respectively. But now, the universal design or the architecture used with A100 based systems allow these systems enabled with A100 GPU to become a universal single building block for AI data centers. So at the last leg of agenda point 1, we'll have a quick look at the detailed specifications of DGX A100 based system. As you can see on your screen, the new system, which is called DGX A100 based system, now allows 9 Mellanox ConnectX 200 Gbps based network interface. Now the system offers dual 64 core based AMD CPUs, which means that 3.2 times more cores are available for intense AI jobs. Now there are 8 number of NVIDIA A100 GPUs with 320 GB total GPU memory, which means 12 NVLinks per GPU allows us to have 600 Gbps GPU to GPU bidirectional bandwidth. And also, which is one of the most important feature, is that now NVIDIA NVS switches are being introduced to this system, which allows us to have 4.8 TBps bidirectional bandwidth available, which means that we have got 2 times more than previous generation envisaged performance available. With this current system, we can have 15 TB of generation 4 based NVMe SSD, which allows us to have a peak bandwidth of 25 Gbps and 2 times faster than Gen 3 NVMe SSDs. So the overall package, what we can have with the help of DGX A100 is quite comprehensive one and can handle your training, your analytics, your inference, and the development work by means of a single system. Now we have got 4 options available, which are from Tyron series of GPU systems. These GPU systems allows us to have more flexibility for those users who plan not to go for a very high-end system, but with an elementary, a moderate, or a mid-size configuration based on A100 GPU. So this is the option number 1, what we can provide to all of our users. Option number 1 provides us 4 number of A100 based GPUs, SXM4 GPUs, enabled with dual number of AMD CPUs. And this system can become an ideal choice for those users who plan to run the training and the inference jobs on the systems. And the system they are looking for should not be a very costly or system on of a high-end configuration. For those users, this system comes out and become a very ideal choice. Second system is, or the option number 2, what we have on our offer is the 8 GPU enabled system, which is again an AMD based system and allows us to have 8 GPUs, which are A100 PCI Express based GPUs available through the same single system. So this is one of the world's most, the highest performing GPU system, which is available based on the latest GPU. Option number 3 is, which is actually called Tyron HGX A100 system, which will be launched very soon by Tyron, and this system will offer 8 number of NVIDIA Tesla A100 SXM4 GPUs, which will be more or less the same configuration as DGX A100 has on offer. Now, other than the high-end GPU systems, for those users who largely prefer to buy a system for the purpose of development system, for development purposes, for NLP workloads or any other AI workloads. We have got personal AI supercomputers available as well, as we have discussed in the previous sessions as well. So these kind of systems allow all our users to have absolute flexibility so that you can extend all your workloads from your system to cloud in a few minutes, further leading to the fact that it delivers 4 times faster training than any other GPU based system. Now, since we have been going through the details of single GPU systems or these GPU systems which are populated with large number of GPUs, over a period of time, many of our users had approached us to provide a solution for mixed workloads, which is basically should be able to address the requirements of converging AI, HPC, cloud, and containers at the same time. For those users, we have got a specific offering, which is also the need of the hour for many of the users who prefer not to keep a dedicated hardware available for each and every workload. For those users, we have started offering the complete solution with convergence of AI, HPC, cloud, and containers by means of single hardware solution. This solution is called by Tyron as Force series of offering, which means offering you the flexible hardware, offering you the optimized hardware, which can be used for multiple workloads at the same time, providing you resilience across all the workloads, and then the scalability and speed is not being missed by us. And the last but not the least, which is one of the most important part, is ease of using of these systems. So this mixed workload solution, what is provided by Tyron, looks like this: that for users who prefer to access to the high-end GPU systems or their infrastructure developed for AI, prefer to have an access through their laptop. From their laptop, they can have an access to the virtual desktop environment. This virtual desktop environment allows the access to Tyron Cloud Manager, which further takes the users to the complete hardware infrastructure developed by users, in a sense that Tyron Cloud Manager will further allow users to have an access at the same time for various workloads. For example, users can have an access to virtualized environment, they can have an access to big data and virtual desktops at the same time. They can have an access to HPC AI containers for their respective applications. At the same time, they can also make their containers run on the heavy GPU systems, allowing them to have multiple applications handy with them to be used for inference training and development purpose. Likewise, it allows processing those containers and allowing enterprise workloads to be run on low latency based high speed interconnect based systems as well. So these all workloads or all these user scenarios are possible by using the same set of hardware, the AI infrastructure, what we can develop for our users. Now, other than this, so how we are allowing our users to have an access to those containerized large number of applications by means of our Tyron Qubits cloud offering is shown here. So Tyron Qubits allow run multiple applications simultaneously, which means that there is a direct jump in performance up to 20 times compared to a standard scenario. And now users can easily scale by having an access to all their workloads like TensorFlow, Torch, Keras, Theano, Caffe, PyTorch at the same time. And these can be installed on your system in a few seconds. As you can see on your screen, the moment you have an access to all these frameworks available as pre-compiled frameworks, it allows you to scale up the performance multifolds, and the installation can be done in a few seconds. This is offered by Tyron Qubits Cloud, which allows you to have 50 or more containerized applications by means of hundreds of containers available through Qubits Cloud. Now, how Qubits is helping all our users is basically that Taran Kubernetes Cloud is compatible with our workstations, which means that it has got both GPU and CPU optimized containers available. It allows our users to have an access to over 100 plus containers. It can run different applications simultaneously. You can design a simple workstation or large clusters with Kubernetes technology on the fly. The high scalability and the affordable price even makes a single GPU workstation become one of the most optimized hardware for AI users. And at the same time, all our users can talk to our experts and build the right workstation or GPU system within your budget. So this was all about agenda point 1. Now I would like to hand this over to Ram to take care of the agenda point 2 to 6. Ram, over to you, please.
Thank you, Hriday. Can you stop sharing?
Yeah, sure.
So we had seen the GPU hardware part of the systems. Now we are, as a part of this session, we will also cover the NLP part. So here we are going to look into some of the advanced topics like word embedding, sequence model, and advanced models like BERT, Robota, etc., which are based on transformers. Now, basically, in NLP, we want representation of the words. So that is the main task. That is an important task which feeds the data into the deep learning model. So we can use the representation for predictions, for generating words, etc. Now, how we are going to create a representation of the words is very, very important. In the last session, we covered some of the representations like TF-IDF, etc. But they don't have a context on this. So if a word occurs, it doesn't have a context on what is the word next to it, on what is the context based on it. So this context need to be captured for us to build a robust model, which can do a better predictions or generating new sentences. So for that, we need to create word embeddings. So with the word embeddings, you can clearly identify how a word is related to another word. There is a vector representation which gives an input on how this word is related to another word. For example, a man and woman. They may be related as a human being, but they are separated as a sex. So there is a kind of a difference in the word embedding representation for each one of the words. Now this has been identified, this users has been identified way back in 2013 by a researcher from Google who created the concept of word to vec. Now there are different word embedding representations. A slightly modification have been introduced to word to vec. So word to vec is the first initial one which came into existence on word embedding. Now this is originated from the Google, and it uses a shallow deep learning, shallow neural network models, which can use as a representation, vector representations. Now the second one, which came the next year, is from the Stanford. It is based on the Bloom model. Now this is an unsupervised learning model, which actually based on the probability of occurrence, co-occurrence of the words. There's a slight deviation from what the word to vec does. And finally, in 2016, we had Foxtext. This is from Facebook, and this is built over the top of the word embeddings to combining the lower level embeddings as well. Now, see, these are the three different representation in word embeddings. Now, let's look into the word to vec representation. Now, as I said before, word to vec leverages a shallow network. Now, there are two architectures as a part of word to vec. One is continuous bag of words. Another one is skipgram. In continuous bag of word model, The current word is given the context word within the specific window. So it takes the context of each of the word as an input and tries to predict the word corresponding to that context. So for example, today is a good day. Now this particular, let's say this is the word we are going to predict, and this set of words will form the context. Similarly, other words are removed, and based on the context, we are actually trying to predict one single word. Now these words are represented by one hot encoding, and they are fed into a shallow neural network model. For example, you can see here, this particular word, which is the word which we are trying to predict, is coming from the input of context words. Now, when we are training this shallow network, you are getting some representation in the hidden layer. So this is the shallow network, and this is your hidden layer. While training this, you're feeding the context words and you're trying to predict one single word. Now you're actually training your hidden layers, and there is a representation that is happening. Now this representation can give you a better view of how the words are related to each other. For each word, let's say word 1, word 2, word 3, each one of them will have a representation which is in the form of the word embeddings. Now this representation depends on how you design your hidden layers. Now these inputs we will provide when we are trying to design this model and get the word embeddings. Okay, so here you can see this architecture. So this is your input layer, and this is your output layer, which is the context word. And here, this is your hidden layers, which is getting trained. And when you extract this one out, you will get the word representation of each one of the words. Now, with this word representation, you can actually see how they are related to each other. And the other architecture is the opposite of that, where you're trying to predict the context words with a single input. For example, you're feeding it one word here, and you're trying to predict what is the context words for that. So this is a scriptgram model. And here also, you are training the model by using a one-hot encoding representation, which is the initial input, which goes into the shallow layers, and the hidden layer is getting trained. And this hidden layers will give you the representation, which is the word embeddings. Now, after getting the word embeddings, you can actually see how they are related to each other by using some of the similarity metrics like cosine similarity or Jaccard similarity, and you can see how they are related to each other. Let me show that. So here, it's a simple demonstration. The corpus is very small, but you can see how it is being done. You can get the word2vec model from Gensum, which is an NLP package which has various other models also, Glow, etc. So after getting the model from the Gensum, you can provide the input corpus, and after cleaning that corpus and converting into the basic tokenization, then you can pass it on to the Gensum model. Sorry, the word2vec model. Now here, after training the model, you can actually check how they are related to each other. Now this is a very simple corpus. You may not get a good score, but this is the step, a basic step how to get the similarity. After you have trained the model, you can check how one word is related to another word. So you can get the score based on it. So this is a similarity matrix which you can use to check it. But if you are using a larger corpus and doing a better training of the model, and trying to project it using a PC or TestNe, you can actually check how these words are interrelated. So this is a 3D space. And after you get the word encoding, you are trying to do a dimensionality reduction and project it in the 3D space. You can see that these words are related to each other. For example, flash, sound, they are closer to each other. Similarly, feature, technique, they are similar to each other. So this kind of representation you can get from word embeddings. Now we can clearly see that, you can clearly say that this word is farther apart from this word, which is in the PCA representation. You can see that this word is further apart from this word. So this is how you can uh, create a context for the words. So word embedding is a very powerful way to create a context for these words. And we had seen two architecture. One is a continuous bag of words. Another one is the skipcam based word embeddings. The another approach which came from Stanford is the GLOW model. It's slightly different from that. It's actually utilizes an unsupervised way of training the corpus. So in the previous one, you have a kind of a supervised one where you have sent the context word and you know what is the output. So here you are sending the context word and you know what is the output. So this is a kind of a supervised way to train the model. But if you don't have those kind of information, and if you don't want to go with this approach, you can actually go adopt the GLOW-based model, which is an unsupervised representation, which is basically co-occurrence statistics. Like for example, a word can co-occur with multiple words. Now you are getting a probability of how these words are co-occurred. And based on that, you're creating a nearest neighbor representation, and then you can create the linear substructures. For example, how a man is related to the woman. So this is a one linear substructure. There could be multiple linear substructure, which is actually represented in a form of co-occurrence statistics. Now this will form the word embedding compared to the other approach which we have seen in the word2vec. Again, GLOW is also available as a pre-trained model from the Stanford GitHub page, where you can see the GLOW is actually available as a pre-trained model. You can download that and use that for your NLP steps. Now, what happened after you download the pre-trained model, you can actually use that for uh, tokenization. You can actually use that for building a sentiment analysis model or something else. So these are very powerful models compared to the previous representations like TF, IDF, etc. So you can also see there are a lot of applications even in the areas like biological, where you have the DNA samples, where each of the DNA has a different structures. You can actually use the word embeddings kind of architecture to identify how these DNA structures are related to each other. So these has a wide application across the industries, not only in terms of NLP, it is also used in the biological space. There is a model called BioVec, which can be used for representation of DNA, RNA samples, where these representation can be used for identifying the genomes, etc. Now, this is the first part. Once you have the word embeddings, how you are going to predict it. Now, that comes the second part. The first part is the input. Now, you have a word matrix with the word embeddings, word 1, word 2, and you have the representation in a vectors. Now, the next step is to use these representation for predictions or generating a new sentences. For that, we can use a sequence to sequence models. For example, let's say you are having a translation engine where you are translating one language to another language. Let's say English to French. Now, all these sequence models will have two architectures, two networks. One is the encoder and another one is a decoder. So in the encoder, you're sending the word encodings. These word encodings are used to train the encoders. So may I remind you that though the English and the French different language have different outer structures, but internally they are related to each other. For example, I am here is same as Jesri Isi. So the structure is same. I has a representation which is similar to the J in French. Am is going to have a representation which is similar in structure like Sri. And here is going to have a representation which is going to have a similar representation like Isi in French. Now this word encodings is what we are trying to leverage. Now you might have used a word encoding to convert the English word. Now these word encodings are passed into the encoder, which encodes these word encodings and learn it. And after that, it is used by the decoder to decode it in the another language. So that's why these language models, these translation models will have two architectures, which is an encoder and a decoder. To see a simple representation of how this works, let's go to one of the implementation where a sequence model, a sequence layer has been used. So here, this is nothing but getting a corpus and trying to predict the sentiment is positive or negative. So you're downloading the data. After that, you're encoding the data. Then you're sending it into the layers. So this layer is going to have embedding layer and followed by a bidirectional LSTM layer, which is the sequence model. So this LSTM is going to identify how these sequence patterns are interrelated to each other. So here, if you see the difference between the GenSum word2vec and the Keras, the TensorFlow Keras architecture is that we are not going to use a word2vec directly. So here we are just using an embedding layer. Now this does the purpose of creating the embeddings. So when you pass the corpus into the embedding layer, this embedding layer is getting trained and it gives the better representation of the word. This representation is passed into the LSTM layer. Now this LSTM is going to see word by word and see how they are related to each one. So word 1, word 2, word 3, word 4, and these are vector representations. And this LSTM layer is going to check how these words are interrelated to each other. Now here we are using a bidirectional, which can gives us a better accuracy sometimes, because bidirectional is like you're training in this direction as well as you're training in this direction. So it can capture the patterns, the sequence patterns more efficiently compared to a unidirectional LSTM. But the downside is that it's going to consume a lot of resources. So when you're deploying a deep learning model, you need to consider the resource consumption as well, not only the performance. Performance is a one metric. The other metric is how much resource is trying to consume. Some of these bidirectionals, though it's attempting on both the directions, it's going to consume a lot of memory. So therefore, sometimes it may not be useful. But in terms of performance, usually it performs better compared to a unidirectional LSTM. After that, since this is a classification, you are going to predict whether this is a positive or a negative sentiment. You are passing into a dense layer and finally giving out one predictions. Now this is how your sequence to sequence or language models works. So you have a word embedding, a corpus, which is converted into tokens, which is converted into word embeddings, and then it is fed into LSTM based models, which can understand the patterns and get trained. After that, you're sending it into a dense layers and final single layer, which is going to predict whether this is a positive or a negative sentiment, whatever type of prediction you want to do. But if it is a generator, for example, you're going to generate a sentence in another language, the architecture will differ slightly. So here you will have two types of architecture. One is encoder and decoder. So in this example, we had seen only an encoder, which is kind of a model which is going to predict what kind of a sentiment it is. But if you're having a model which is going to be used for translation, you're going to have two architectures, which is encoder and decoder. Now here, the word encodings are going to here, and the encoder get trained, and it understands the patterns clearly, and the output from here is fed into the decoder, which dissects these patterns and then generate the words in another language. So here you're sending it in one language, word encoding, which understands the pattern and send it out, which is decoded by the decoder architecture, and it gives out the word encodings in another language, which can be translated back into another language. So that's how your language to language translation model works. Now, so far we had seen a basic representation, that is a word encoding representation, which is considered basic nowadays because of advancement of other set of architectures like transformers, etc. The next thing we are going to see is how the transformer is going to help predict much better compared to the sequence to sequence models. Now, these models are previously available, and the latest one is the BERT transformer model, which has both encoder and decoder kind of an arrangements. So here, Elmo is mostly into a sequence-based language model. This language model is based on sequence-based, whereas BERT transformer is based on attention, and it is more powerful compared to these models. And there are also a lot of modification of BERT models, which we will see. So BERT models utilizes transformers. So what is a transformer? A transformer is kind of an architecture which is going to look into something called self-attention. Now, there will be a set of sentences where the word can have multiple context. With the word encodings, you are actually able to understand the context. But what happens if there are multiple contexts based on how the sentence is structured? Now, the typical vanilla word encodings cannot handle that, right? So a particular word may have multiple contexts associated with it. For example, this is the one famous example. The animal did not cross the street because it was too wide. So here, the it, what does it represent? Whether it represents the animal or it represents the street. As a human being, we can easily say that, okay, wide is not associated with an animal, therefore we can say that it is associated with the street, therefore it represents street. But the models is going to see only the numbers, right? So it cannot actually understand what this it is trying to represent, whether it is in the context of an animal or it is in the context of a street. That kind of a confusion will occur. For that, we can actually try to leverage architectures called transformer. So in the transformer, we are going to have something called self-attention. Now these self-attentions are something like a word is skipped and the model is trained to predict the word based on the context. For example, when you're training these transformer models, you have sentences. The sentences may have a lot of words, and the words are actually skipped at the particular intervals, and it is being masked with different words, and they are actually trying to be, and the transformer using the architecture, you're trying to predict this masked words. So that's how the transformer can understand the context based on the words in it, not just the context, but based on the words in it. So this is actually using a calculation for self-attention, which is going to have three vectors, which is actually the query vector, key vector, and value vector. So let's say there are three words, word 1, word 2, word 3. So there will be multiple vectors. There is a q vector, which is a query vector, and a key k vector, which is a key vector, and the value vector, which is a v vector. And finally, you will get the score for each words. So this score is going to help us to check what context is this particular sentence is talking about. There could be multiple contexts. A same sentence can have multiple context, right? Uh, Based on how we are trying to use it. So the sentence one, a word one in sentence one may have a different context with the word one in the sentence two. So this differences is actually computed using a self-attention mechanism. Now you can see the architecture. So input encoding is passed into a multi-head attention, which is again passed into a feed forward. And then in the decoder, you're going to have a multi-masked. So this masking has been happening, and this mask is what we are trying to predict. Now, when, for example, you have sentences, which is going to have multiple words, and some of these words are masked. So your model is trying to predict these masked words. By doing that, it is trying to understand what kind of a context these words are in. So in a plain vanilla word embeddings, you have a context between the words, but it does not differ between the sentences. If a one word has a vector representation, it is going to be a constant across different sentences, right? So, but in transformer, this is going to change. So that is actually coming from the self-attention calculation, which we are talking about, which is going to have three vectors. From these three vectors, we are computing the score. Based on the score, we are deciding which sentence this particular word is going to be. So that's what the transformer architecture, and it is being invented in 2017. From there on, there are a lot of language models which is based on transformer instead of having a sequence to sequence model, which is based on RNN LSTM. So RNN LSTM is taking a back seat, and now you're having the transformer as the main engine for creating the language models. Now this is the example. So you can see here, there are multiple contexts. It can represent animal or a street, right? So based on the self-attention, we are actually trying to compute a score for which this it should be assigned to. Should it be in the street or should it be in the animal? So that is based on the self-attention score, which is going to tell us what context it is. Based on that context, which word this particular word has to be associated with. Now, this is a very powerful mechanism compared to a simple word encoding in a LSTM based sequence, because this can pinpoint and tell which word is important for particular context. For example, you're having an NLP task like question and answering, where you have a question and you need to get an answer. For those kind of a task, these kind of self-attention mechanism with the transformer architecture is more powerful compared to a sequence model based on LSTM. And BERT is actually leveraging this sequence to this transformer architecture. So we will see an example on how we can use the BERT model. So before that, let us understand the BERT. So BERT is actually a bidirectional, and it is actually leveraging a transformers. So there are a lot of versions of BERT. You have a BERT base and a BERT large. Actually, the number of layers of the transformer will differ and the parameters will differ. But underlying architecture is going to be a similar one. So it consists of two steps. One is MLM. MLM stay, which is actually masking the attention. So you have sentences, you will skip some of the sentences, and then for example, you will skip some of the words, you will remove some of the words. Instead of that, you will provide a mask. So here where the training happens. Now this is the first step of a BERT model. Followed by the masking prediction, the next step is the next sentence predictions. There are two steps as part of the BERT model. Here you can see the sentence. What happens is that you're going to remove some of the words here and then replace that with masks. So these masks are actually encoded, and you will have a start and end. So starting encoder, a starting representation and the ending representation. Now your BERT model is getting trained, and it understands that what word should come in each of these spaces. Now this is the first step, MLM. Now what this word is actually talking about? So for example, you have a question and answer. Now this is the sentence 1, and this is the sentence 2. So this is the first sequence, and this is the second sequence. Now first one is we are actually trying to predict the masked words using the MLM technique. The next sentence is to predict the answers. So based on that, you can actually design a Q&A tasks. Okay, so let us see implementation of that. Now here in this case study, we are going to see identify the toxic words in tweets. So you have Twitter feeds, you have a lot of tweets. Then in the tweets, there are particular words which are toxic in nature. Okay, so you have a sentence, and suddenly there's a word X which is going to have a negative context or a positive context. Now we need to identify this word X. Now you can do this with a sequence model, but more efficient one is using a transformer based model, which is coming from the BERT based model. So here we are downloading the data here. So this is going to have a tweets. So this is the data, and you can see here this is the tweet ID, and this is the actual tweet, and you have a particular word or a phrase which is going to have a negative or a positive connotation to that. For example, here the so sad, this two words are giving a negative sentiment, and here the fun is giving a positive sentiment. We are not just predicting a one word, but we are predicting a set of words which is going to give the sentiment of the particular tweet. So here the dangerously is going to give a negative sentiment. Now in our model, let's say you are getting a tweets only, and you can actually use the BERT models to predict which bird is actually giving you the positive or the negative sentiments. We are not predicting the sentiment whether it's a positive or not. We are actually predicting which word is giving you this positive or a negative sentiment using the BERT model. Now for that, we need to convert these representation into a format which can be understood by the BERT model. So BERT model has its own type of representations. Initially, you will convert this into a word embedding for each words, and followed by creating a mask IDs for each of the words that you are going to remove. So BERT has something like a 80-20% rule, where 80% of the word masking is based on the words here, and 20% is randomly chosen. Now this is internally configured in the BERT model, which leverages this procedure to identify and predict the masked words. Now here we need to initially